I.R.A. claimed their intelligence was good. They said they'd killed a former Republican who turned loyalist gunman and informer. They were wrong. In reality, said the RUC, they'd murdered a totally innocent 52-year-old laboratory analyst, a Catholic, who was on his way to work. A nurse tried to help the man, James Babington, after the two provisional gunmen shot him from close range.
I tried to get a pulse, and there was a weak pulse in his right arm, which gradually faded. It was very, very weak. It was impossible to do anything. We put a blanket over the gentleman.
The I.R.A.'s intended target is now under police protection. This afternoon, gunmen from the loyalist paramilitary Ulster Volunteer Force struck. They shot and wounded the cousin of a Sinn Féin councillor. Terry Lloyd, News at 10, Belfast.
On the streets of West Belfast, one group of people says the I.R.A. ceasefire is a sick joke, and they're the victims of the provisional's intimidation. They fear for their lives, but they cannot be identified.
3 fellas bounced into the house, said, "We're I.R.A, you're under arrest," and took me to a dark room somewhere and shot me through both legs and knees. I said I had to leave the country when I got out of the hospital. They told me it was for anti-social activities, but I never done that.
Entry and exit bullet wounds disfigured the legs of a young man who suffered multiple kneecappings from so-called I.R.A. punishment squads.
That's where they blew out an artery in my leg. I was nearly dead from that. It all swells up sore if you move around a lot.
My legs and ankles and now my arms got broken. I was just praying for them to shoot me. Get it over with, like. They had a gun but it jammed, so they broke both my arms, both my legs and both my ankles.
Security posts overlook West Belfast, but for years the I.R.A., like their loyalist counterparts, have tried to police areas where they draw support, beating or shooting through the knees anybody who falls out with them. The ceasefire has brought out the mural men with messages of peace and justice, but those who suffered the I.R.A.'s concept of justice have this to say about the ceasefire.
It's going to be worse for ordinary people now. I.R.A. vigilantes will be handing out beatings all over the place. We're just like the mafia. You jump when they say jump. Beating's worse than kneecapping. You got 6, 7, 8 men with baseball bats with nails in them beating you for 5, 10 minutes. Ceasefire means they won't shoot security forces, but it's fellas in the street now. They still run the show and that won't change. If the cops stop carrying guns, it'll be like Chicago in the 30s or something.
The violence has turned Northern Irish police stations into forbidding fortresses. The I.R.A. shoots policemen, intimidates those who complain to policemen, then its political wing says the police aren't doing their job, so the I.R.A. has to step in. Because of the government broadcasting ban, we can't transmit their voices.
I know for a fact that I'm inundated with referrals from the RUC for cases they can't or won't or have no interest in dealing with, and they'll quite often tell the complainant to come and see me. So there's an acceptance by the RUC, unofficial of course, that within nationalist areas the I.R.A. provide a policing role.
Which is about as near as Sinn Féin ever get to admitting they tip off the I.R.A. to go and beat people they don't like to a pulp. Others go much further, saying Sinn Féin's Falls Road office was used to round up kneecapping victims just 2 months ago, with a Sinn Féin councillor organising the violence.
They told me to go up at 10 o'clock. There were 6 or 7 others, all being told to go to the Sinn Féin office. Sinn Féin councillor came out and says there'll be someone to see you, just go back to your houses. He was talking about the I.R.A. The councillor said, "Get the out of here and don't leave your houses." Then the I.R.A. started hitting people's houses and taking them out and shooting them.
An allegation Sinn Féin denies. Because of the government broadcasting ban, we can't transmit their voice.
I have in 25 years have never been presented with anybody who can say that they were in a Sinn Féin centre, interviewed by the I.R.A. and then told to go home to be shot.
The I.R.A.'s always maintained it has to deal with lawbreakers because people in nationalist areas won't complain to the army or the police. Yet according to police figures, the clear-up rate for crime in West Belfast is actually higher than in affluent, peaceful areas like Bangor in County Down, a town largely untouched by the violence, a place where the police can operate much more normally. Intimidation victims say Sinn Féin's new campaign of peaceful demonstrations will be matched by increased I.R.A. activity using beatings instead of shootings to deal with enemies and enforce racketeering operations. Operations not mentioned in any ceasefire statement. Families Against Intimidation and Terror was set up by Nancy Gracie when the I.R.A. kidnapped her son. She has a message for Jerry Adams.
If what you say is true, why don't you clearly state what you mean, exactly what you mean? Why don't you come out and say, right, people who have been expelled by Sinn Féin I.R.A. out of the country can come back home again. There'll be no more beatings, there'll be no more kneecappings. People can get up, start a business again. There'll be no fear of anybody going in looking for protection money. There'll be no more racketeering.
You can never know who's paying protection money, who's refused, who's not even been approached. But the rackets and intimidation of businesses are far-reaching on both sides, and few victims are willing to discuss it even anonymously.
They hijacked the van of mine. Along with the employee who was driving the van, they filled the provisional I.R.A. This was filled the van full of explosives. The driver drove the van full of gelignite to Andersonstown police station. Andersonstown police station was blew to bits, so also was my van.
And like many businessmen, he was also threatened at gunpoint in front of his children. The bombings may have ended, he says, but the I.R.A. intimidation and rackets have, like the lookouts and the walls, become part of the landscape.
I can't see that ending at all. I mean, the I.R.A. started off the same way as the Mafia did, and I think the Mafia has now it's formed in Northern Ireland, and it'll never ever go away.
And the depth of intimidation even spreads across the water to British cities, where scores, perhaps hundreds of people lurk, sentenced to exile by gunmen told to get out of Northern Ireland and not come back until the so-called sentence has been served. And sometimes the sentence is indeterminate. This man's been exiled in Britain for 2 years now.
I've lost everything. I've lost my family. I've lost my work, my whole lifestyle. Just a person on my own in a foreign country. You see, I took a good serious attempt to kill myself with an overdose. All I want is to see peace and be able to live my own life again.
The face of Belfast is changing fast, and those exiled get increasingly out of touch with home. But they'll not be hurrying back just because the I.R.A.'s armed violence may be over.
There'd have to be peace for a very long time indeed. They'd have to hand in all their arms and explosives. I don't think I'd take the chance. In fact, I'd ask John Major and Albert Reynolds, can they guarantee my safety if I go back even while the ceasefire's on?